For years now, we've been talking about Star Citizen. We've been theory crafting. We've been discussing, what could this mean? What could that mean? Will they do this? Will they do that? I don't know. And we've been kind of asking these questions back and forth for a long, long time. And for some people, it's been a bit of an intolerable wait. But for most of us, we've had other things that we can do. And that kind of helped mitigate that waiting, that tension of waiting and seeing how is this going to play out? How is that going to play out? But, throughout playing all these other games, we've always kind of held to that line of once it's a game, once the gameplay matters, once it counts, we are going to really delve into Star Citizen. Well, the possibility exists that very, very soon, it could matter.
Now, what do I mean by the gameplay may count? It may be important. That depends on what kind of player you are, right? If you're the type of player that doesn't really care about cosmetics or anything like that, then chances are this is probably not going to be that transition point for you. And that is probably going to be still a ways off. But you may notice that in the last Inside Star Citizen, they were talking about the fact that players were disappointed that there were no rewards for those missions. But like the regular missions that we get in Star Citizen right now, there is a financial reward. But many of us know that the financial rewards in Star Citizen, their permanence is highly dubious. And more than likely, if the money isn't at least... at the very least, it's going to be clawed back to a certain degree. And I would probably assume that at some point we are going to get wiped down to our base account status. But what could matter then? What could count? I mean, like the weapons that we get are certainly not even, permanent from patch to patch. Items of clothing, ship equipment, ship weapons, things like this go missing between patches all the time. So it's very much a thing that kind of pushes you away from really investing all that much time in Star Citizen. Most players generally log into Star Citizen with every new patch. They try a few things out, and then they kind of step back and they take a breather. They play their other games, as many of us have, and that's kind of one of the things that has kept a lot of us sane, throughout this long wait for Star Citizen. Many of us, you don't realize that many of us are the first time that we flew one of our ships in Star Citizen was 2014. That was like 2 presidents ago for some people. It's been a long time. I often, compare, this to the length of other historical events, and I just say, it took less time for the U.S. Navy to cross the Pacific and go from Pearl Harbor to Tokyo Bay than it took for Star Citizen to even be where it's at right now, which is still an incomplete alpha. And I'm not saying that to be, mean or nasty. It's just, it is the way that it is. But when they were talking about rewards, financial rewards within the game are fairly meaningless right now, and we're almost certain to see all of that disappear. But the kind of rewards that I think that CIG is probably going to bring along are cosmetic rewards, things that kind of signify your journey. This is where my thinking lies. Things that aren't attached to player power specifically, but things that are unique to the player, that say, you accomplished this thing. And of course, I've talked about these things in the past in other videos, and I've talked about, how this is very important in a lot of RPG type games. The appearance of your character and, the little items that your character can carry that can often signify a part of the journey that is maybe no longer even available to a lot of players. This is something that a lot of players value and cherish very deeply. And if CIG were to play their cards right with these rewards, they could put some things in the game that, while they may not make you rich or they may not make you powerful, they are going to serve to kind of tell the tale of your character and, you know, kind of the journey that you've been on. And that, I would argue, for a lot of people, that's a pretty strong incentive to play. A lot of people kind of go into these games, they do have a little bit of an RPG mentality. I often say that, you know, when you look at people and how they play MMOs and the characters that they create, there's two versions of characters really that players create. Some people create the character that they want to be. Other people create the character that they would like to see. And I'm more of the character that I would like to see type player. When I create characters, I feel that like I'm a writer adding to an established universe, and I'm adding a character to that, you know, to that lexicon, to that lore, or at least trying to create a character where, you know, they don't really upset the lore or anything like that, but they exist within that universe. That's generally how I go about creating characters. But when you create certain items, certain cosmetics, certain, you know, just flashy little things that don't really grant you any power, you can enrich the story of that character that players create. And I think that there's a lot of players who are very much interested in things like this. And so you might find yourself, you know, much like me, you know, when you're thinking about your game time budget, you might be starting to look at a situation with the upcoming possibility of the return of Jumptown, with the new, you know, Xeno threat, and with, you know, the Ninetales taking over Crusader Station, I believe it was. You might find yourself in a situation where you're going to have to make some time allowances for this gameplay, because there may be some interesting rewards there that you will want to get. You know, some rewards are not going to appeal to you, but others might be right up your alley. And so you may have to set a little time aside to go and do some missions and build some reputations with these factions in order to acquire these things. So things could get very interesting. I'm dying to see what these rewards are. I really am, but I don't know. If you're like me and you like to plan ahead and things like that, you may want to let people, you know, in those other worlds that you exist in, know that your time might be a little bit tighter in the very near future. And to be perfectly honest, I welcome it. I can't wait to see what CIG has in store, and to at least find just little things in Star Citizen that actually matter.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.